Hey, it's Ollie, and in this video I'd like to talk about word order and sentence structure in a new language. It's confusing, isn't it, when you're learning a language where the way that you speak seems to be like totally upside down or back to front. Lots of languages have word order that's very different to English. And so I'd like to give you a few ideas of things that I've found that have helped with this. There's obviously no magic solution. Largely, getting used to word order is actually just that. It's getting used to it. And over time you find that it starts to make sense in the language. And so long term, the most important thing is that you're actually reading and listening a lot. Because if you're reading stuff in the language, if you're listening to stuff in the language, you will start to get accustomed to the word order. Now the problem is that that's a kind of a long-term thing and it's not a quick fix. And so what I usually find is that in order to really get your head around word order and different sentence structures, you've got to be able to take a step back and kind of analyze what's going on. When you're listening to someone speaking, everything's too fast. You don't have time to sit back and really think, that's what they did with the adjective. The adjective came after the noun or before the noun, or that relative clause, there's like a huge relative clause that came before the actual noun or whatever it is. And so that's one of the reasons that you'll find lots of people recommending that you get a text to accompany the audio so you can read and listen at the same time. And when you've got that enables you to slow down the language and you can actually look and notice. Notice is the key word. Notice is such an important word for language learning because it's about you literally noticing the way that words are put together, the way that sentences are constructed. And so that thing of being able to slow it down and actually look carefully in your own time, calmly, at examples of language is the way that you can kind of start to intellectually understand the word order. Because in many cases you can absolutely intellectually understand the word order. If you're learning a language like Cantonese, for example, you very quickly find out that any relative clause, which typically describes the thing that you're just talking about, will come before the thing that it's talking about. Whereas, for example, in English, if you say the place where we went the other day, or the place that we went to the other day, in Cantonese, that's the opposite. So you say the place where we went the other day, place. Now that's kind of logical if you think about it. It's no less logical than the English, but it is kind of weird because you get all these extra words in the sentence before the thing that you're actually talking about. So that's a great example of kind of word order and sentence structure, and how that is very, very different. And at first that kind of thing is very, very confusing, but the way that it stops being confusing, the way that it starts to become normal, is when you've seen enough examples for something to click, and you say to yourself, okay, I see, that's what's going on. I've seen it enough times before, and here it is again. And then eventually, you start to adopt that into your own speaking. So it's a process. And so one of the things that I'll often do when I'm having my speaking set, my sessions with my tutor, which is something that I do very, very regularly, is I'm always going to be writing down complete phrases. So if my tutor says something to me like, I didn't like the place I went to the other day, or the place where I went the other day, and I didn't understand that in Cantonese, I'm going to say, okay, stop, I want to write that sentence down and I'm going to record that, so I'm going to get that down on paper. And more often than not, I like to actually put that in my flashcards so I can go back and look at them later on, and everything's just stored in my phone, so it's dead easy. And I always make sure that I'm writing down these complete phrases and sentences, because then I'm kind of collecting examples of the language in use and language at work. And so from that point, the onus is then on you to say, okay, I'm going to go through and look at these and find patterns. And if you can find those patterns, then eventually you're going to start to get used to the way these things work. And this is the same in any language, whether it's German, where you've got verbs kind of coming at the end of the sentence, or languages, or maybe even more simpler Romance languages, where you just have to get used to the adjective coming after the noun, for example. Whatever it is, it doesn't really matter. But you need to first of all identify what's the difficult thing for me, Once you've identified it, then you can just go and look for many examples. And the best way to do that is by writing stuff down, having records of it, and just paying attention and noticing ways that the language is being used. Beyond that, it's about not getting frustrated, staying motivated, and just keeping moving forward. And very quickly you'll find that it becomes normal and you wondered what all the fuss was about in the first place. All right, hope that was helpful. See you in the next video.